Congratulations! If you're here watching this secret lecture, then you've finished Introduction to HTML5. Now, you might be wondering why I have this secret lecture and why didn't I just tell you all this stuff before? Well, it comes down to the idea that one of the very tenets of HTML5 is the idea of separating content from style. I really wanted you to learn the tags, and I really wanted you to learn that tags are meant to convey information. They're not there to make things blue or purple or underlined or things like that. However, the problem is when we were done with the class, you had a very nice syntactically correct project, but it didn't look very good. All right? So what I'm going to talk to you about today in this lecture is the idea of the style attribute in a tag. So if you've used attributes before in your tags, you had a, href, or image source, different things along that line. So the style attribute is slightly different from the others in the way that it's formatted. And how the style attribute works is that it lets you specify color, background color, margins, a lot of different ideas. So I'm going to show you a few of them here so that you can go ahead, go back into your HTML file and make it look a little bit pretty. So this is how it works. Inside the tag that you want to change, you go ahead and put the start tag, you put the word style equals, and then inside double quotes, you're going to put what we call the property and the value. So in this case right here, I've said, hey, for my H1 tag, this one H1 tag right here, I want you to make Colleen Van Lent show up in blue text. So let's take a look. There you go. Everything else is still the same. Use the default H1 size, the default H1 font, but we've made the color blue. So hopefully when you finished Introduction to HTML5, your final project looked something like this. You've got your site, it's all syntactically correct, but it's not much to look at. So let's use the style attribute to just add a few little modifications. As you can see, I've added some blue text up here to the name, I've added a light green background, some gray background here, and what you might not notice, but you can tell just a little bit, is while in the original version there was no margin, everything's right up along the left-hand side, over here I've added a little bit of space to just make it a little bit easier to read. So let's see how I did that with some code. Right here, I have the introduction to the final project. Hopefully you've already turned it in, otherwise I've just made it really easy for you to finish this project. One of the first things I want to do, if you remember, is let's go ahead and add that little bit of margin to make the displayable text not quite so close to the edge. So I'm in my body tag, and I can put in style equals margin. And right here I'm going to write the words 25 pix. That stands for 25 pixels. I also spelled margin wrong. So let's go back here and save that. All right, we've put it in. Every time you change something as you code along with me here, I want you to hit refresh to make sure it worked. And as you can see, everything moved over just a little bit. So let's go ahead and make the name blue. Style equals color blue. What color blue does is it changes the font that we're looking at. So again, I'm going to refresh and boom, there you go. So if color is to change the text, how do we change the background? Because as you can remember, I had a green background for the navigation. So I'm going to go over here, add style equals background color light green. Again, I can't stress enough how important it is to have a good editor, because as you can see, as I forgot how to spell things, as I forgot my double quotes, Sublime let me know. It said, ooh, you're messing up, Colleen. So let's take one last look here. Oh, that looks good. The last two things we wanted to do was we wanted to add some background color to these different sections. So I'm going to go here. I'm going to be lazy and cheat a little bit so you don't have to watch me in my horrible typing. Grab that. And I'll go down to the two sections. Change it from light green to, I believe I used light gray. Do the same thing down here. Change it to light gray. All right, let's see how we look here. All right, so it does look much better than it did before. Now, one of the things you might remember is that in the original version, or my better version, I had my name centered along the side. So that was in the H1 tag. But the question is, we already have that the style is color blue. How do you add multiple attributes on that same one? If you want to do that, you need to use semicolons. So I'm going to go up here, put in a semicolon inside the quotes, not outside, but inside the quotes, and add text align center. Go back over here, and we can do that. Let's go ahead and add one more little thing for you to do, and let's go ahead and make that picture smaller. Now, if you remember from when we talked about images, you don't need to use the style tag to make images smaller. So I'm going to go ahead and write in here and put in width equals, I'm going to use percents here because it's a little bit better, and use width equals 25%. That may or may not be the right size. Refresh it. You know, I think I'd like it a little bit smaller. You should pick the number that works best for you. 10%. There we go. Looks a little bit better to me, maybe not exactly the way I want it. So what I want you to do is whenever you have an HTML file and you want to play with it, you can use the style attribute to add background colors, these margins, text align. You can of course go on the internet and find many different properties that you can change. So the question you may be wondering is, why don't I use this style attribute? There are many practical reasons for not using it, all right? One of the things you may have noticed is when I wanted to style my different sections, I had to go into each and every single one of them and put style equals, style equals, style equals. Suppose you have many sections and then later you decide to update it, you'd have to go into every single one and update it because the style only applies to a single element, the element it's in. This makes it very difficult to change later, extremely difficult, and really takes that whole idea of your tag is conveying both information and style. It also takes away from reusability. If you have a file and then later you want to use it again, unless you're in love with that color scheme, you're going to have to go in and strip all those style attributes out. Instead, if you really want to find the right way to do styling, you're going to want to use what we call cascading style sheets. It's a much better way to style your page because it's done in a separate file and the HTML file is left alone. That separate style sheet can be used for background colors, margins, all the same things. But the true difference is if later you decide to change the color or the text alignment for an element, it'll change it for all of your files instead of going in to each individual element in each file you want to change. So I hope you will join me as we learn more about cascading style sheets in the Introduction to CSS 3 class we'll be offering soon. Again, great job with the class, and I hope you've enjoyed it. Thank you.